For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:06 on CJAD 800. Welcome to Today's Entrepreneur, presented by Fuller Landau, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, and joined as usual by Fuller Landau's Josh Miller. Hello, Josh.
Hello.
And this evening we're talking doors.
Doors. Walk in, walk out, install high-end doors, Dan.
Yes.
Doors that not everybody sees every day.
And joining us in studio is Leo Lapointe from Portatec, who's our entrepreneur profile for this evening. Leo, welcome to CJD.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Good, how are you? So let's begin with the most obvious question. Obviously, you're in the door business, but tell us about Portatec.
Wow, where do I begin? Company founded in 1984 from my father-in-law named Jacques Hull. Founded it mainly to be different, distinguished from the competition. There's a lot of competition in every industry, but I would say in our industry, it's something else. It figures when people are not sure what to do, they pick up a hammer, a tool, open a showroom, and figure it's going to be easy to manufacture doors and sell them. But what he wanted to do was become different, unique, distinguished in the market and make high-end front entry door systems. So basically that's what we do. We manufacture doors locally on the South Shore of Montreal since 1984. So we are a proud Canadian company who manufacture high-end doors, front entry doors mainly, but any door around the house for that matter.
So it's really for the residential crowd. It's not for commercial use?
Residential only, thank you. Forgot to mention that. Residential only. And like I said, our main focus is to make that home more beautiful, more distinguished. That wow factor when you approach to your sister's home and you get all jealous and you want to buy one right away. So the idea is when you're driving up and down the streets, you see our doors, you notice them, and you have to start asking questions.
Now, manufacturing in Quebec, there's a lot of people that have moved their manufacturing offshore. Why keep it here? Why is there such a specialty? What's the benefit of making sure that you're manufacturing your product here?
First and foremost, sense of proudness to be Canadian organization, being here in Canada, building our doors. When you go outside, like in Asia and stuff like that, well, you're not focusing on quality anymore. You're focusing on volume. So I believe by staying Canadian, we're staying high-end products. So focused on answering to the needs of the people and not always concentrating on price. And when you're a Canadian-focused company operating out of Canada, or Montreal for that matter, you're focusing on quality and not just volume and price. So
now, you only sell in Canada, or you sell throughout North America?
No, for now we sell throughout Canada. Started off obviously here in Quebec, moved on to Ontario, and now we can say we're almost coast to coast from Alberta to Nova Scotia.
You say you're in the high-end doors. Is that first of all, I'm sure it's a conscious decision, but have you thought about the lower end doors? Are you taking yourself out of a market segment? I mean, where's the thought process behind that? And I don't know if it's something that started way back when the company was formed by your father-in-law, or today, but what's the philosophy behind it, and why do you stay away from other segments?
Like I said before, when the company was founded, it was to do something different in the market, in the industry, to open eyes up that a door is not simply a door. So you got to find your niche and stick by it. If you start focusing on everything that exists in the market of doors, from a regular white door you can find at Home Depot, and you also want to sell that high-end entry door system that could be $10,000, $15,000, you've lost focus. So we want to be niched. We are niched. We're high-end. We're proud to say so, that we're not a price volume company. And I figure if we go into too many different ways in the company, where it be a low-end door, side door, you lose focus. And I find you can't not be a specialist if you do too much within the same walls. So.
Now, before you got into this business, you had a retail store that dealt with the similar product.
Correct. I was in the retail business before being a manufacturer. So I sold the Portatec product at a retail level for over 15 years and was extremely successful at it. But once I said before, you got to focus on what you want to do and what kind of clientele you want to attract. And once you found your niche, never let it go. Stay strong in the path. Offer quality products from right to the manufacturing, right to the install, and give a great after-sales service is the key with a high-end product, because higher-end product, people are going to look for a service down the road, not just at the purchase, but if there's a problem in the future on the product.
What made you switch? What made you say, you know what, I'm tired of retail, I'm tired of having my own store. I want to go into the manufacturing side of it. I want to go on the other side into, I don't know if it's the dark side or retail's the dark side, but why make the switch? What were the driving factors for you?
They both have their challenges. I would say the retail business, I had goals, I had targets, which I achieved. And once you achieve your goals and targets as an entrepreneur, you always look for new challenges, a new life if you want, something to wow you. And I was curious. I wanted to be able to go on the road and develop this product with other salesmen, with other retail businesses across Canada to tell them, hey, look what we can do. This has existed in Europe for I don't know how many decades and years, but yet here in Canada we're 20 years behind the game, but not with Portatec. We innovate. We challenge ourselves. So I think to answer your question more clearly, it was for the challenge. It was to make people aware of a door is not just a door. I was doing that, but I was doing that locally. I wanted to bring it across Canada and hopefully one day across North America.
Yeah, some people say having a retail store is challenging enough, let alone other aspects are going to manufacturing. But certainly manufacturing is a whole other aspect. Now you're not just buying the end product, you're creating the product. You're getting those raw materials and putting it together from scratch. There's a whole quality aspect that now your name is tied to.
Absolutely. The only thing we do not manufacture is glass and hardware, but the rest, you're absolutely right. We buy the raw material, and there's definitely a secret on how to assemble all this together. Buying unique parts and material from different parts of Canada and sometimes outside of Canada. Unfortunately, there's some things that we can't always buy that come from Canada. That being said, it's a challenge because don't forget that your front entry door system is something that you open up maybe 30, 40 times a day when you have kids and whatnot. So it can't only be beautiful. It's got to be obviously beautiful and aesthetically speaking sound, but it's got to be also technically sound and technically long-term, 30, 40 years investment here. So,
has technology for doors changed over time?
Tremendously, I would say. We're a very European-inspired company. As I said before, Europe and our industry are a good 15, 20 years ahead of the game, technically speaking and aesthetically speaking. So yes, it's changed tremendously at a hardware level, at a frame level, sill level for water and air filtration. It's improved quite a bit, and now we're fighting for the new Canadian building codes that are now coming out. So always improving on the technical aspects of the product. It's huge. And you got to stay ahead of the game by innovating, but not just in beauty, but in technical aspects.
So is there a research and development side to your business?
Absolutely there is. I may not have mentioned it before, but I'll say this word in French. It's more familiar to me, but we're a small PME, and a proud one. And when I say small, I don't mean necessarily in volume of sales, but small in the sense of we don't have 150 employees. So research and development is done by us internally. It could be Catherine, who is the president of the company, and also Jacques' daughter, who strives very, very strong to innovate with our marketing director, our production manager, myself, colleagues, members of the manufacturing plant, members of the after-sales service. So it's not given at an outside contract. It's done in-house research and development because we think we're the best ones at it because we're the one producing the product. So we will send the father-in-law over to Europe every couple of years, and he'll bring us back about 3,000 pictures, and sometimes not on doors. We're wondering why that's there, but but nonetheless, innovate in-house.
And it's interesting. You're mentioning your father-in-law. You're mentioning his daughter, that happens to be your wife. I have no doubt that there's an interesting family. As far as you told me, as far as I know, and if she's listening, I hope she still is. But actually interested to know how that dynamic is. Not so much, more how you're working together, because now you and your wife see each other day in, day out, and I'm sure it's a lot of fun. I'm sure you don't get on each other's nerves. You hug multiple times a day, just like you open doors. But when we come back after the break, we're going to touch on that.
All right, the perils of family business. Here in studio with us is Leo Lapointe from Portatec on today's Entrepreneur, 7:15 right now.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:18 on today's Entrepreneur, inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and Josh Miller of Fuller Landau with you, and our guest is Leo Lapointe from Portatec, a family business that manufactures doors. And so let's talk about the family question now. Leo, how is it working with so close to your family with your wife?
Before I started working with Catherine, who is now the president of the company, I worked with her father before working with Catherine. So the dynamic has been a challenge, to say the least, but nonetheless achievable and very successful. You got to learn how to separate your personal and your business life, which it's very difficult for most people to do. So you got to learn when to talk about business, when not to talk about business, when to laugh, when not to laugh, secrets, not to keep too many. But nonetheless, it's been a challenge. But I would say in my case, throughout my career as an entrepreneur or just an employee, I've worked often with brothers and both my brothers actually. So it's always been a challenge, but I know how to separate the two. So the biggest issue when you're working with family or friends is separating pleasure and business. Or mixing both together if you can.
Let's start with your father-in-law first. Did you guys share a philosophy? Was it difficult to get on the same page often, or was really smooth from the get-go?
Smooth, because his life is sales and my life is sales. It's what I'm good at. It's what I was born to do. It's what my father also did for a long period of his career was sales. My brothers is the same thing, sales. So that's what we eat and breathe is sales. So because him being so strong in the sales aspect of his company and me bringing a younger philosophy of sales into his company, there was no challenges there. We saw eye to eye in most stuff, and when we didn't, well, we'd go have a beer.
All things worked out over alcohol. I can appreciate that one. And now we turn to Catherine, your wife, the president of the company. Your boss, peer, call it where you want. How do you divide the roles, and how do you turn off at night or on the weekend, or you don't?
Wow. Okay. Where do I start with that one?
You start with praising her.
Wonderful, wonderful, beautiful business mind. She's a very young entrepreneur who didn't necessarily start her career as an entrepreneur, but I think in the past few years of her life was her dream or her role was to take over her dad's company slowly but surely and make sure it goes on for another minimum 30 years. So tremendous respect for her entrepreneurship and her strength, even in the economy being tough, especially in our industry. I would say all industries, but I would say in renovation, especially high-end renovation, it's definitely a challenge. So when we decided to start working together at a full-time level, there had to be ground rules.
Does she compliment you? I mean, you said her dad was more the sales aspect. Is she also sales, or is she better?
No.
But that's a good thing. She compliments you.
That's the key, I would say, is not focus on the same thing in the business. She focuses as a general manager role, on everything about the business, but mainly production. She's great for the accounting department. She's great for the production. And no, her strength is not sales, but you don't want to have a general manager who's strong in everything. Your company won't be successful. You have to have key men in every department.
How do you resolve disputes if you guys are deadlocked about the direction of a business or decision that has to be made? How do you work that out?
I go to my favorite employee and she goes to hers, and we let them duke it out. No, we don't make any decisions. It's not a one-man show at Portatec. It never has been, never will be. We do meetings every Monday for all the directors, production manager, marketing manager, general manager, and sales manager. That's my role at the company. And we discuss ups and downs of the week we just had, and we discuss problems in each department, and we make decisions as a team. And once we made initial decisions in that meeting, we then go to our colleagues. And I clearly said colleagues because we don't believe in saying employees. It's colleagues. So everyone has a say at the company. So our disputes are tried to wide open with the employees, with our colleagues, and decisions are made as a team. So the disputes are hardly one-on-one because we rarely do meetings one-on-one.
And quickly, just before we go to break, do you guys turn off at night? Do you have this no talk after a certain hour on the weekends, or everything just blends in?
Well, there's one period at night that if I were to talk business, there'll be no,
nothing else.
But nonetheless, no, there is a turn-off period that I would say we give ourselves a rule. 6 o'clock Friday until 8 o'clock Monday morning. It's nothing but pleasure. And during the week, we let each other go with what we have to do with the business to make it successful. Talking
business on the weekend is a turnoff. I got it. Coming back after the break, we're talking about people and roles. Let's talk about human resources. Let's talk about your team.
Leo Lapointe joins us from Portatec on today's Entrepreneur at 7:23.
For For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:25 on today's Entrepreneur. Our guest is Leah Lapointe of Portatec, and we're talking about people. Certainly a lot of family in the business, but it's not just about family, of course. Lots of other employees. So, Josh, let's handle HR.
And there's certainly many aspects. I mean, from the manufacturing to sales, it's very different than running a retail operation. I have no doubt. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy or maybe the Portatec's philosophy on managing the team and how that works.
I'd like to first and foremost mention that for us at our place, it's not employees, it's colleagues. So handling human resources when you handle employees as colleagues goes pretty smoothly. Doesn't mean that it's a perfect system, but it means that they've earned my respect and they've earned mine, and I've earned theirs, excuse me. So when it comes to human resources, it's just treating them like one of the gang and always getting them involved in all big decisions. Not necessarily the financial decisions of the business, but everything else, they're involved. We keep them aware of decisions, bad ones, good ones. What's our next move? What are we innovating? Should we market this way, market it that way? So when an employee, what we call a colleague, feels involved in the place they work, they feel like they own a part of the company. So they give a certain devotion and time to the company that an average employee wouldn't give. So it kind of flows on its own. And when there's respect and laughter is key. It's so healthy to laugh when you work in any atmosphere, any industry. You got to learn how to laugh and take your job sometimes just lightly and go with the flow.
How many people are you at Portatec?
When we are I would say, because we're not a 12-month-a-year period company, we're focused.
Say at your peak. Yeah.
At my peak would probably be about 37.
Now, are you formal in some of your processes? Like, do you give annual evaluations? How do you when you're 37, you're at your peak? Do you get everybody together in a room periodically and have your rah speech? How do you make sure that the culture is maintained?
I would say that one thing we do have on our boards everywhere in the production and at the cafeteria is our goals, our mission, our attitude, our respect that we have to have. It's written in big and black and white in French and English, everywhere, plastered everywhere. That's one thing. So it's a constant reminder of what we want to do as a company, how we want to do it together, and how we're going to get there. After that, the raw meetings, that's my specialty. So I get them going with always laughter and jokes on a daily basis. And then, of course, once a week, our what we call a board meeting with the directors. And then our production manager does a really good job in motivating the guys in the shop to tell them you're not in a line of production. You're making something. You're making a dream. You're making an entry door system to a beautiful home, someone's personal home that may cost $500,000 their home. So you're going to better someone's home, and they try to focus on it's not just a door. It's more than just a door you're building. It could be someone's dream. It could be 20 years running that they want a beautiful entry door. So once again, getting them involved, doing the weekly meetings, keeping them smiling, keeping the atmosphere friendly, and not so much, well, here comes the boss. It's here comes the joker.
Have you ever had an employee give you, because I presume you take suggestions from your colleagues, I'll stop calling them employees, suggestions from your colleagues. If they have an idea, it's great. I'm sure you encourage it. Did anybody ever come out with good ideas, like or anything that you've really been able to employ within the firm?
I would say a lot, actually. The most of the good ideas do come from my colleagues, employees, what you want to call them, partners, and so on and so forth. So, of course, you got to take the good with the bad, but there is no bad idea. That's another thing we promoted at Portatec, is that whatever you're thinking, bring it up. There's no stupid ideas or bad ideas.
What about training? Do they need to be trained? Like, do you have a formal process to train your people? Is it constant? Is it once a year?
I don't believe in a formal training once a year or in a boardroom and everyone's there, because then you get that sense of they're not comfortable. They're not going to speak out amongst other people. So you kind of do it discreetly on a daily basis. You focus on some of their weak points without telling them it's their weak points, but you focus on them and you challenge them, and in return they're going to challenge you. So I don't believe in formal meetings. What I do believe in is focusing on them on a daily basis. Make sure they know that you're supporting them, and make them feel at ease when they have something negative or positive to say, because in front of people, usually people kind of close up sometimes. So I don't like to do anything formally with the training.
Dan, we've heard many entrepreneurs be inclusive with their team and their colleagues, and somehow they always seem to find success in that. Portatec and Leo is definitely no different.
So coming up, also we'll talk marketing a little bit later as well on today's Entrepreneur, but more with Leo from Portatec after the news at 7:30.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:34. Welcome back to today's Entrepreneur, presented by Fuller Landau, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, with Fuller Landau's Josh Miller, of course, and our guest this evening is Leo Lapointe from Portatec. They are a door manufacturer, and Josh, we'll get to the marketing end in a little bit, but first, financing, incredibly important, and of course, dealing with the banks, which we know is always a pleasant experience.
Well, no doubt, and certainly in manufacturing, with whatever equipment is needed and whatever ups and downs and possible recessions, but running a business and running a manufacturer is not like running a retail store. So there's no doubt that financial partners are important. And I guess I'll turn to Leo and ask him about his experience, positive or negative, on when you were looking for financing, for financial assistance. What worked for you guys?
Well, once the father-in-law said no, we had to go.
That wasn't to you asking for his daughter's hand in marriage, right?
No, of course not. That was a big yes. Joking aside, we went to the BDC and Investissement Québec, and they've been very supportive, both of them, and giving us a helping hand. And I would say if BDC has been wonderful. It's not a bank that just lends you money and expects the interest in double fold. They're there to support you as a true partner. Quebec, Investissement Québec also, mind you, but the BDC has been behind us all the way with support as far as the sales goes, marketing, even at the production level. Whatever we want to help, they're there to support, right? They're not pushy, but they're there to suggest things and ideas, and they have teams in place for each department, whether it be marketing, sales, production, or even accounting for that matter.
But you certainly have to go to them with the right business plan and the right information. You certainly have to give them the energy and the ammunition to be able to help you.
I have to give full credit to Catherine on that one. She came up with a business plan that was just numbing. It was just incredible, as for someone that has a teaching background, 2 master's degree in teaching background, but is now an entrepreneur, came up with this business plan that I think knocked the socks off the BDC. So we made them true believers because they also truly believe that we have a product that's just going to knock the socks off of the industry. We have a unique, distinguished product. So when you have something unique and distinguished that you believe in, and you have the support from your team behind you, the BDC got on board. There was no question.
You do have this unique product, and it's a high-end product. Does that mean you're recession-proof? I mean, how did you guys deal with or fare with, in late 2008 and a little bit beyond, when the financial markets and people took some big hits?
No, we're not recession-proof. I don't think any business is, for that matter, is true recession-proof. Maybe dentists and stuff like that. But nonetheless, recession-proof, I don't believe that anybody is. What helps us, honestly, it comes back to the same things over and over again. But when you're very strong side of innovation of your product, and you're distinguished, and you're high-end, and you're truly high-end, and you can prove it to the customers, it helps a lot in a recession. People truly believe that when a recession hits, the first thing to do is excuse the expression, but drop their pants, drop their prices, look for a cheap, supplier, and sell on volume. That is the last thing you got to do when a recession hits. It's focus on higher end products, be distinguished, and because people who have money in a recession still have money, right? It's an old saying, but it's the truth. Mm-hmm. So when you focus on people who have money, your success will be there. It's just that you have to have the good salesmanship to be able to show and better explain their product so people believe in it.
Did you have to spend that much more time training and educating people in your team to make sure, hey guys, or internally, this is what you're selling, this is the high end, this is where we're not veering away from, and from a customer standpoint, you're really getting value for money. Yes, it's expensive, but it's gorgeous and it's going to last.
Well, first off, I wouldn't necessarily use the word expensive. That scares people off because there's value to the price. But nonetheless, yes, it's a higher end door, therefore price comes with it. Absolutely. You got to train constantly. We said before, on a daily basis. Sneak it in there on a daily basis. Remind my colleagues, and at that point, maybe more employees, because you got to really pound it in them and say, listen, guys, let's not lose our focus here. We're here for another 30 years selling high-end products. let's let the market know who we are and what we do, and we'll have success even if in a recession. I think that's what you got to do in a recession, is focus on different, higher end stuff.
And speaking of marketing and speaking of educating the customer, what do you do for your marketing? Is education of the customer and the retailer very important for your marketing aspects?
Absolutely. That's when we bring in the big gun, the father-in-law. We let him tour the country. No, that's definitely one thing we do use, mind you, believe it or not. He can get the message across. Marketing is with our product. The best way to market our product, or a high-end product, as far as I'm concerned, is home shows. Big national ones, like the Montreal one that just passed at Place Bonaventure. We were there for the 10 days as a manufacturer. As you guys know, we don't sell to the consumer. So we were there to speak about our products, tell people who we are, where they can be found, how they can be purchased, and who can install them. So we have that product there. When you're on the radio and TV, it's great, but that's for volume. We're not necessarily looking for volume. We're looking for the right clientele for the right product. And when you're in the high-end business, you don't need as much volume as you're in when you're in the regular business of the product. So
we've had other entrepreneurs on the show talk about trade shows, and some are good with them, but there are many that downplay them or say that, you know what, really doesn't do much for my business, so we've kind of steered away or have gone selected. Why are trade shows so good for you?
If you do a trade show, key thing is what? Be different. If you're going to show what everyone's already showing, or show stuff that people saw 5 years ago, they're going to get bored quick and they're going to stop coming. If you're innovative in what you do and you show something different and you present it with a wow factor, they pour in them themselves. You don't have to go get them in the aisles. Portatec is not about going and pouring the clients from the aisles of the streets. They come on their own, and that's the truth. We're the wow factor. So we're not putting doors there at $500 white both sides. We're putting something completely different, whether it be contemporary or classic or medieval looking. It's got to be a wow factor. And when you have that different product to show, people will come. It's automatic. They got to touch it. They got to open it. It's something about doors. People have to open them.
You do medieval doors?
Absolutely.
That's cool. Game of Thrones. Here we go.
But you mentioned that we do whatever type of door you want. We consider ourselves the door designer, from the bottom of the door right to the head, right to the hardware, right to the glass. So you tell us what you want. If you have imagination, bring it to us, and we'll create your door with it together.
What about the materials? Are we moving sort of away from the woods and more into plastic doors these days? Stuff that's lasts a bit longer, maybe?
Very good question. Actually, we, being unique, we do all three. We do fiberglass, steel, and we do wood covered on steel. So we don't do solid wood doors. So steel, once again, higher end steel, a thicker gauge of steel to prevent warping and denting and minor scratches. We do fiberglass for the ones that are looking for that wood look, but don't trust the wood in our climate. And then we do wood clad on our steel products, which is something else. It's you can put wood on both sides, wood on one side, two different species of wood, have contemporary inside the house and medieval on the outside. So you can have some fun with our product as far as technical aspects and aesthetics. You can have some lot of fun. It could be a lot of people consider shopping windows and doors a boring aspect of shopping. They can we got to go and shop our door. When you buy a Portatec product, it's actually fun. The process is fun, and especially if I get my hands on you, you're finished.
Is there a lot of R&D going into energy savings too? That seems to be really popular with windows and doors lately, sort of keeping the heat in, especially in this climate.
Absolutely. We had to become what they call Energy Star. It's worth what it's worth. We have to be Energy Star to be for all these programs. Like right now, they have the Eco Renov going on, and in 2009 they had also a renovation kickback. You have to be Energy Star to be part of these programs, right? To be efficient. With all these new Canadian building codes coming out with R value and everything else, the focus has to be there. I mean, the entry door systems today are not like it used to be. These new home constructions, the doors are huge, they're massive, lots of glass. So you got to focus on water, air infiltration. So our big focus technically are those three aspects: infraction, water infiltration, air infiltration. So it can't just be about beauty. So of course we're Energy Star, efficient, absolutely.
It sounds like, there's a lot of regulations and a lot of aspects you have to follow. Does Portatec keep up on its own? Are you part of an association? Is that a good thing for you?
We are part of a glass association that keeps us informed via email, through websites and newsletters. Absolutely. But We do most of it on our own, to be honest. We're very proactive, and we keep ourselves aware for being a part of different memberships in the industry. But we're very proactive. I'd say we do our proper own research and make sure, the new Canadian Building Code has been out since 2010, and in some provinces active for 2 years. Well, we've been ahead of the game because we sell in all the provinces. So,
now, how do you reach? What's your best way to get to your customer? If it's not trade show, how do you reach them? How do you get a new customer?
First off and foremost, we sell through retailers. So we don't sell to the consumer directly. So we have over 52 active retailers across Canada. And so one is done through them, of course. With our collaboration, we do marketing together, whether it be smaller trade shows in their cities, in their market, or whether it be a local newspaper, whether it be a phone book, whether it be a radio and TV, as some of our customers will do. So that's one way. But the next big thing was that we all know is web. Mm-hmm. It's web. So our website is only getting stronger and stronger, showing pictures. What we would like to do actually to our web is become like the car industry. Client goes on there, builds their door, gets to the retailer and say, this is what I want.
And great topic that we're going to hit right after the break. It wasn't even planned, but he fed right into it. We'll continue with marketing, building your website when we come back from the break.
All right, today's entrepreneur with our guest Leo Lapointe from Portatec. It's 7:45.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
7:48 on today's entrepreneur. Our guest this evening, Leo Lapointe of Portatec, and we also bring in Stephanie Dowers, marketing specialist at Fuller Landau, into the conversation to talk about websites and online marketing, Josh.
And, Leo ended with a beautiful segue in saying, we're working on our website, we're improving it, but there's no doubt, entrepreneurs, they start from scratch, they change their website, they revamp it, they reinvent themselves, probably any 3, 4, 5 years if you're really going to wait too long. But Steph, as we talk about websites, maybe you can kind of give us some insight and challenges as to the things to look for, the things to be aware of, the things that you really, when you're revamping a website, when you're starting from scratch, what's the first step?
Well, I think a lot of times people build a website and then 3 years go by, 4 years go by, and they've probably spent a lot of money on it, and they don't realize that you're always going to have to spend money on your website, and you'll probably have to redo it. Not maybe a full redo, but a good portion of it, at least the style and the design, probably every 3 to 4 years. And the first thing I always say when I'm doing a website with someone is that even though you have this great idea and you have this great idea for design, is to really work out your content first. And that doesn't mean writing out a huge doctoral thesis, but having the outline first, because it's really hard to do the design without the content. And if you do it in the reverse order, your design is not going to work because you don't know how much content you're going to have. So that's my first thing, is let's work out on what the outline is. Let's get most of the text done. It doesn't have to be finalized, right? Because it's a website, you can make changes. But let's not talk about the look until we know what we're trying to make a look for.
But you don't have to, when you're designing, when you're saying content, it doesn't necessarily mean all the words to describe it. It's just saying what is the outline, what are the topics that we really want to,
but
really
also
drill
the
down.
words. It doesn't have to be your final copy, but at least you know that you're not looking at 800 words. Maybe you want to make it for 300 words, or you want to have just maybe a title and a table. So if you only have the outline, that's a good step, but let's also have some of the actual content written, and then we can edit as we go to finalize the terminology to optimize it. But the content really, it just makes the process much smoother and the end result much better when the content's more or less done beforehand.
And after content is done?
After content is done, I don't know how to say this nicely, but don't be cheap. So we need to not just, a guy who knows a guy who's going to get you a site done for $400, because that site's off of a template and it looks like it's from 2009, which isn't even that long ago, but it's a long time ago. So don't be cheap. You're going to spend a lot of money on the design, but that's okay because this is your showpiece. And it's maybe you don't have to get 40 pages of your website. Maybe your website only needs 4 pages, and that's where you're going to save the cost. So when it comes to design, really find somebody who can work with you to help you meet your goals, because that's actually, I think, number 2A and 2B is know what the goal of your website is. And you're always writing content not for yourself because you want people to know all about you, but for your user. And a good designer is going to help you focus in on that.
Now, how much has design and the ability and the changes over the years I mean, have there been drastic changes? You mentioned 2009 is not 2014, which is, of course, but what kind of major changes have you seen in design websites over the many years?
I think the biggest change now is that there used to be this idea that you want just one on your screen, everything you see right there above the fold like a newspaper. But now people don't mind scrolling, right? Because think of it when someone's on an iPad, and we'll talk about responsive design in a second, but when someone's on an iPad, they're making that motion, right? They're flicking down, they're flicking down, they're flicking down.
It was radio. We can see the motion, but
You guys
thanks
can
for
see
describing it.
So that to me is the biggest change, is that now you have almost infinite scrolling. Like look at websites like BuzzFeed. I know, don't judge me. I really like BuzzFeed. But you just keep going. It just keeps loading more and more. And then that kind of brings me into spend the extra money, make sure your design is responsive, because there's nothing worse than looking at someone's website on an iPhone and you're pinching in and out trying to hit something that's not meant for an iPhone. So spend the extra dollars, make it responsive.
That's a great point, Stephanie. Is it mandatory right now to have a website that is not only mobile friendly but maybe iPad friendly too?
Yes, I 100% think so, because let's think of it as if you're like Portatec, or I guess no, because you're a retailer, but the retailer itself trying to sell the doors. Your goal is conversions, right? So maybe the person is not going to make the purchase on their mobile device, be it iPad or phone, but they're going to judge you right away because they're going to be on the bus, or they're going to be somewhere, they're going to check out your website, then they're going to go to their computer. No, they're not going to want to go to your computer if your mobile website was ineffective. So it's so important to make your website responsive, and I know it costs more, but it's kind of the mandatory now.
We're talking with Leo Lapointe from Portatec and Stephanie Darwish on online marketing. Today's Entrepreneur on CJAD 753.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult Fuller Landau, Chartered Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
We're back with Leo Lapointe from Portatec, and Stephanie Darwish is here. Talk about marketing online as well, Josh.
And just before we get back to Stephanie, I kind of want to turn to Leo and ask him, when was the last time you redid your website? Like, what's the status of your website today?
Oh, we just revamped it last week. No. 2008, as embarrassing as that sounds, when we kind of took over the company, we had a lot of things to focus on. So we had to focus on new colleagues, maybe, or make sure they're working in the right departments, because before spending thousands of dollars on a new website, we got to make sure we have the technical support behind it once the orders start pouring in. But nonetheless, we're there. We're there now. We're starting to revamp it as we speak.
And Stephanie did say thousands of dollars, not hundreds, so that's a good sign.
Good. Rule number 3 followed.
What else can you offer as far as building your website?
This is this is my own personal preference as somebody, I guess, who works in marketing. But to me, it's also always worth it to get your website built on a content management platform. So content management meaning that you, me, your uncle, and his cousin can go on, log in, and it's like using Microsoft Word. You're just basically, what you see is what you get editing. So the opposite of that is calling your programmer, letting them know what the text is, and you want to maybe make a change. It just makes it easier to manage your own website, and it lets you bring the process internal. So if you have something where you want to be always showing a special, like we're having 0.9% interest rate on cars right now, you can actually change that text on that box yourself without having to call people and pay that extra money.
How often do you feel that content needs to be changed or updated?
Oh, I think it needs to be changed and updated all the time, because that's how you help with your search engine results. So, but there's different strategies to do that. So you can have your set content, and then you have other content that's constantly updated and refreshed, hoping to drive customers to your other content. So a blog's an easy way to do that, attached to your site. And then once they're on your blog, then they could click through. But it's your blog results that'll get hit first.
The reality is, if you want to keep up to date with your content and change it, you need to devote whatever resources your company has to make that happen.
Yeah, exactly. Websites are ongoing. It's not a stagnant project. It's no finish date. It's always, you're always working on your website.
And I know there's tons more to talk about websites. Certainly, whether you're building it from scratch or revamping it, there's a lot of work to do. Not to spend hundreds of dollars if you want to do it, but spend thousands if you want to do it right. But as we approach the last moment of the show, we'll turn to Leo, and as we do with every entrepreneur, we'll ask him our one final question. Leo, what one piece of advice would you give to today's entrepreneur?
First and foremost, get yourself a great accountant from Fuller Landau, and you'll make some money. But structure. focus and structure. And once you get that vision where you want to bring your company to, stay the line. A lot of entrepreneurs are not focused and are not structured, and they're kind of shooting the gun in every which direction and hoping they hit somebody one day. The idea with us is structure and focus. I can't stress that enough. And target yourself a goal, and not necessarily a yearly goal or a monthly goal, but maybe even a daily goal, and every day achieve that goal to be successful. So if I had to sit down with a 24-year-old entrepreneur who wants to start off, I'd say, what's your goals? Do you have a structure? Do you have a vision? Get to it. And once you hit it, don't let anybody change your mind. You can learn by your mistakes anyhow. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Leo. Dan, my quick takeaway here is know what you know. Choose your product, choose your service, know it, do it well. Know what you want to be, know that you can't be all things to all people, and do the best with your choice, your vision, and your structure, as Leo put it.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks to Leo Lapointe from Portatec and Stephanie Darwish on marketing this evening. We're back in 3 weeks. We're taking a bit of a hiatus for the election and then for Passover, so we'll talk 3 Mondays from now. It's 8 o'clock on CJAD.